everyone. Welcome back to another Framework Discovery stream, day 5. My name is Arjun. I'm a multidisciplinary designer and I've been a framework expert for the past 2 years and designer for the last 14 years. So, the idea for the Framework Discovery stream is to help you understand a little bit more about framework and get to speed about using it in your own context and see if you can help uh, build a website for somebody or for yourself and things like that. So, with that, let's get started with today's stream. This will be, I wanted to share more around the responsiveness today. So, let me share what we've been covering so far in the previous live streams. Okay, acting up. Right, looks like the screen sharing is not working here for some reason. Let me try that again. Okay, I'm not sure if you're not able to see it. Just work there for a minute. Ah, technical issues. Okay, this is going to take quite a bit of time. Sorry, folks, just give me a minute. Let's see what's happening. Okay, let me join back, folks. Looks like this is not working. There we go. Awesome. Ah, technical issues there. All right, here we go. So for the last few live streams, we started with, of course, an overview of Framer, and we went into understanding how to build some simple pages in Framer using not only preset components that are available for you, building blocks in Framer, pretty much very standard patterns that are there that will help you build sections of the page, standard sections of the page. And we've also went into borrowing the components from external sources like libraries that we created, which is Framer Flex, and there are some other libraries created by Framer experts out there. We've also went into the creating simple effects and custom interactions there, and trying to see how you can go beyond something that is normal using Framer, beyond normal layouts, beyond standard layouts. That's where Framer really shines, where it can kind of bring all these custom interactions, which is otherwise not possible for you unless or until you go for code or unless you go for advanced platforms and things like that. And we've also seen how to build a simple CMS page. And today we are going to talk about a little bit on the responsiveness and see how we can, why responsiveness matters, and one of the common roadblocks or what common problems that people encounter when they are building their websites in Framer. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So I'm switching to this page here, which we've kind of built over a period of the last few live streams. And here's a simple page that's built out of the building blocks. It's easy to follow something that has been, in progress for the last few live streams, so that there's context for us in terms of how we are able to progressively advance and make this even better and better. So we started with simple components, and then we brought in a component which is from Framer Flex. We've, especially the navigation bar, we've customized it, we've made it responsive. And in the last live stream, we've also converted this whole thing into a CMS based thing. So all of these testimonials are pretty much coming in from a centralized CMS that you can see here called testimonials. And we've also seen how to add a simple blog page to see how there is a index page which behaves pretty much like any other web page in Framer. And we have within the index page a detailed page for all those posts that we have put in the index page. So this is pretty much like a collection of blog posts, and we have collection of testimonials coming here as part of a section. So these are many ways to use the CMS. So we have right now, in terms of the responsiveness, the default breakpoints that are 1200 and tablet, which is set from 810 pixel to 1199, and from 1200 this particular layout will take over, and that is what will be displayed for desktops that are having a resolution of 1200 and above. And then we have also seen the phone resolution, so that's pretty much starting from 390. You see that on the right hand side panel, and from 390 to 800, 809, and from 810 onwards the tablet layout is what's being displayed. So there's nothing wrong with sticking to these resolutions if your site is extremely simple and you don't want to cater to larger resolutions. But if you really want to build websites that are very professional, that cater to a larger audience, and that takes care of almost 90% of the resolutions that are out there. We cannot target 100% of the resolutions because of the nature of the very fragmented resolutions that are out there. There are enormous number of resolutions. Not everything can be targeted. There will always be slippage. There will always be edge cases. But 90% is a good metric, if you ask me. 90% is a huge metric. So in that sense, how can we do that? You can go ahead and add your own breakpoints by adding it from here, while your desktop becomes your primary breakpoint, where you're anchoring your entire design on this breakpoint, and any changes that you make to this will cascade onto the lower resolutions, and it will also cascade upwards into the higher resolutions as well. So you can go ahead and add custom breakpoint right from here on Framer, and you can probably name this as, let us say, large desktop, or let us say large for now. And let us say from 1200 onwards we are targeting somewhere around 1600. So you are adding something for 1600, let's say. This is generally, typically how we do the guesswork and set a kind of a range that works like this. And you can bring it here. So you can see that the central one is pretty much the desktop, which is the primary. And we have the large one, and we have the tablet and the phone. So these kind of resolutions is something that you can add. But let me show you what happens when we are setting resolutions like this, especially sticking to the default resolutions. And let me actually remove this for now. And even if you do some guesstimate in terms of custom resolutions, how many resolutions can it realistically address? So let me actually share my screen. Hopefully this will not break again. All right. So this time I'm kind of sharing the websites. All right, here we go. Here are some sites that you can see when right now I'm on a very big monitor, which is a 40-inch monitor, and I'm looking at these websites on a smaller window, which is 1920 by 1080 pixel, which is nothing but a standard HD resolution. Even 1920 by 1080 resolution is generally attributed to a desktop size, a base desktop size, HD resolution, and then upwards if we go, there is 1600 kind of a resolution that comes as a large desktop or a wide desktop, and then we have 2560 by 1440, which is my resolution of this particular monitor, which is like extremely large desktop. So usually what happens is whenever you're looking at websites like this, for example, we have this runway site, and this pretty much renders well. All these sections are snugly fitting into the resolution that we have. But the moment we are trying to look at something that is, let us say, a runway research page, for example, and this page starts to look decent, not too bad, but then again, there is this top header, which kind of usually gets cut off at a much larger height on smaller devices, but getting to the larger resolutions, it is getting cut off way ahead. So almost like half the page is getting cut off. I mean, there are these unexpected or unintended things that can happen. Here's another website, which is Gabbit, which is a product by itself. And you can see that the top section is clearly cut off at a particular resolution. And this doesn't scale well for any resolution that is beyond what has been given as a maximum at their end, wherever they are building this website from. And you can see that a lot of these things appear kind of cut off and uneven, broken kind of a thing on this large one. And here's, it's just the 1920 by 1080, which is very base desktop resolution. The moment I go for a little higher resolution, let me actually put this up for a much higher resolution. I'm not sure if you're still able to see this. Oh yeah, there we go. And then I open up these sites, and you see that runway, the intro section of the runway kind of stops at midway, pretty much 50% of the height, 50 to 55% of the screen height it offers, but it does not give as much immersive experience as it's set out to do. And hence we see a lot more sections bleeding into our view, and it's not really making me immersive. So these kind of things can be taken care of when you design these responsive breakpoints correctly, when you think about them correctly. So I'm going to share a little bit more about the myth of the desktop resolution versus the breakpoint. What is the difference between them? I've already written posts elaborately about them. There will be some links shared later on in the video. But let me show what well-designed resolutions will be like. And here's our site that we have. And again, to a decent extent, it is working well because we have set it to fill the width. But on a height, we are having this cutoff at probably 80% 75 to 80% of the screen height, and then the next section is already bleeding in. So what this does is it kind of does not takes away the user from the immersive experience that you want to do with the intro section, which naturally happens on smaller screens, but it doesn't happen on the screen. So that's the problem, and the text kind of goes edge to edge, which compromises the readability. And any text that is very wide is generally not very easily readable. So those kind of things, and you will see some of the sections even going a little bit wider than what is expected and things like that. And here are some websites which are actually designed well, taken care of from there, and whatever the responsive breakpoint system that they follow it so well that it actually works on many different desktops as well as tablets as well as mobile resolutions. Doesn't matter how many different types of mobiles you test it on, it still is very seamless. So you don't see anything breaking up on this particular site, any layout going awry, things like that. So Stripe is one of the wonderful examples of how they give kind of a maximum width for their core content of the page, and the rest of the width is pretty much occupied by the graphics, as you can see in the intro section here. Kind of goes all the way to the edge of the screen, and as you move down, you'll see that these graphics have beautifully ample amount of space around them. And if I actually stop at one of the sections, the entire space that's given is very intentional, that the focus retains in the central area. So that kind of a thing, and then it cuts the background again, and then there's a huge wide section that's being occupied by a very interactive globe that you see here. And then likewise. So beautifully done, wonderfully executed. So this is one of the top-notch websites that's been done, and this is another website of our own Framer workshop that I'm kind of running the coming weekend. If you're interested in kind of leveling up on a professional level, not just sticking to the basics which I'm sharing right now, there's a way to do that very systematically, how you manage a project, how you take on the responsive sites, how you actually address other aspects like accessibility and things like that. There's a lot of things that are being shared here. But the idea is, again, this website is also done on the responsive breakpoints, which I'm about to show you. That makes this very seamlessly responsive to a large extent, even on the largest resolution that I'm right now seeing it on. And likewise, you will see some other websites like Apple website, which is taken care of for many resolutions again. And as if I actually reload this, you will see the beautiful intro animation coming in, which occupies pretty much the central 50% of the screen area by width, and you will see that the sections are occupying a wider area, and I can still seamlessly go ahead and switch between all of these things. And you will see that when I scroll, there is one full section that's in my view, and it's not taken away. My attention is not taken away by anything that is kind of not intended as a secondary section or tertiary section, kind of peeping in, distracting. So in case there is something else like this is pretty much intentional, where it's kind of allows me to scroll further and explore more. So those kind of things are happening. And what best example than actually taking a look at Framer's own website. Let me load that up. Looks like they've changed their front font setting for this particular Framer page, but you will see that it kind of edge to edge, it kind of seamlessly blends all of this background, and there's this video that's loading up, and then there's this area in the center that's been taken care, explaining the features and things like that. So it's very seamlessly responsive. But to design responsive sites like this, you need to do a little bit more work than what Framer allows you to do on a default level with the 3 breakpoints. So let's just head back to our Framer and see how we can get such kind of seamless responsiveness, as I would love to term it, which is different from any other responsiveness. So let's get to it. Okay. I hope you're all able to hear me okay, folks. Getting a message that my voice is low. Just give me a minute there. Not sure if you're hearing any background noise. Check. Audio seems to be working fine on my end. Let me just grab this mic a little closer to me. Some technical issues there. All right. I hope this works well. Okay, let's go. So let me actually share the Framer window. Let's get back. All right, here we are with this site in our view. How do we actually build responsiveness? One way is to actually make custom breakpoints, as I have mentioned you. But for you to actually calculate what kind of breakpoints work for what resolutions, it's going to take a bit of math. And you also have to look into what are the common breakpoints that are out there. You need to base your design on some level of public data that is available. So I've done this part. I've written an elaborate post regarding this, which will be shared post this live stream under the video details. But right now we can take a look at something called FramerFlex. Actually, the link for getting this FramerFlex template that we've custom built based on a lot of data, public data that's been available, as well as some of the mathematical operations and testing on some of our own websites, as well as the websites that we've done for our clients, which have been phenomenally working so far, no issues. These are the breakpoints which have been, after almost like 4 different iterations, we've settled on this, which so far almost a year now that we've kind of with this particular latest breakpoint template, and so far it seems to be working well. And you will see probably the link for this particular thing on the top. You can scan the QR code and get this free starter template. Sometimes I wonder why this is free, but because a lot of work went into creating this. But hey, it's there available for you for free. And whichever site that you're building on, you can actually copy the entire thing. One of the interesting things about Framer, let me show you. You can actually go into the pages panel, right click on this page and hit copy. Once you have this template, pretty much, and you can actually go ahead into your own page and hit paste, and it will actually paste. Let us say I'm just using Command V as a general shortcut, and you will see that this page has already come into a new page onto our own Framer file. So let me actually zoom in and show you what this responsiveness is about. Basically, there are, instead of 3 default breakpoints, we have 6 breakpoints that you can actually use. And let me actually show you the full-blown view of how many breakpoints are there. Here we go. There are 6 different breakpoints spaced out so that when you are actually working on it, these are some finer details that we've taken care. In the real world projects, you will be able to seamlessly go and not be confused on what exact resolution that I'm working on. And you won't be able to make any accidental edits because there is a kind of a marker that we have added to the primary breakpoint on either sides. So when you're actually working at a 100% zoom level, you can just peek at the edges and see if it's actually a primary or not. Because right now Framer gives a very little indicator in terms of only on the layers panel being a primary thing, and nowhere else you will see that this is a primary resolution. And a lot of times we ourselves have accidentally edited breakpoints that are not primary, which have led to unintended kind of layout edits, things like that. So you can take care of that with this template, and starting with your 1360 as a base resolution, which kind of covers on the upward as well as lower kind of a thing. And you will see that this actually addresses all the 13-inch to 16-inch laptops and 18-inch to 20-inch desktops as well, both at the same time simultaneously. That's the kind of range that it has, and you can see actually what specific resolutions, standard resolutions of these 13-inch to 16-inch laptops and 18-inch to 20-inch desktops that it addresses, which is given on the bottom side. 1366 by 768 is one of the standard resolutions. 1440 by 900, as some of you may know, which we generally as designers we use as a base for any desktop design. And we have 1536 by 864, which is pretty much done on 15-inch laptops, 16-inch laptops, and things like that. So these three are the very standard, commonly used breakpoints that are there. So that, and the fundamental difference between these things comes because the breakpoint that we actually are talking about is it's the resolution at which the layout actually breaks away from one resolution and takes the new resolution. That is why it is called a breakpoint. But that's not necessarily addressing directly the resolutions. So, and hence you will see that if you want to address a particular resolution, let us say you are watching it on a 1440 laptop, on 1440 by 900 laptop, then you would need to address this resolution so that it looks well on that particular desktop. And likewise, you will see that there are other breakpoints also which cater to different kind of desktops and resolutions. 1560 caters to 22-inch to 27-inch desktops, which have resolutions from 1600 onwards, as I've mentioned in the previous example, but there are more resolutions which are standard on a base level desktop and large desktops, things like that. So you will see all of these matte displays and all of these starting the base desktop displays. We have 1680 and 1710. These are all some of the resolutions. And beyond that, if we go to the largest resolution generally that is commonly used, beyond this you won't see, probably 0.1% of the population uses anything beyond this. But generally, you will see people working on the large desktops coming in anywhere between 27-inch to 32-inch monitors and 40-inch monitors and things like that. So we have resolutions which are standard in that realm, which are 1920 and 2560. So if this kind of overwhelms you, don't have to worry about all of this. I'm just talking to you about how this math works in terms of a single breakpoint addressing multiple desktop resolutions and multiple devices as well. So that's the idea, to keep the effort very low but address a lot more resolutions. So if you actually want to address these kind of resolutions by building yourself, it will take a lot more time for you to do a lot of testing and get to the right kind of a math that works seamlessly. So yeah, you can actually grab this template. There's also a video that's linked which kind of explains this again. Not as much in detail, but kind of a good overview if you ask me. So, and on the lower end, we have the tablet landscape particularly, and you will see that tablet landscape is something that kind of sometimes bleeds into the smallest laptops as well, which is 12-inch laptops. So there are two resolutions which are standard in that realm, which is 1024 and the other is 1280. So these two resolutions it will address. And tablet portrait, very interesting. Not many people actually think about these two variations, but this is super important if you're actually wanting to build a professional websites. 90% is a score that is, I think, worth having with just having 6 breakpoints and not having 12 breakpoints or 18 breakpoints. If you want to go in a very customized way, if you want to go by yourself, you may actually end up with more breakpoints than necessary. You don't have to go through all of that. So that's the idea with all of these things. And on the mobile, as you can see, the simple 340 DP will actually address a lot of resolutions, because when we come to the mobile realm, we will see that the density of the resolutions and the number of different phones that are there today are a lot more than the number of desktop sizes that are out there, desktop resolutions that are out there. So a lot of density there. A single phone thing can address a lot many. And you might wonder, why is there no phone landscape? And usually the phone landscape is something that kind of blends into this one, which is the tablet portrait and the phone landscape as well. As you can see, these resolutions, which are starting from 720 onwards, 768, 800, and then 960. So these are all the resolutions that are addressed by this single resolution. So you don't have to worry about it in terms of phone also not having a landscape kind of thing. It kind of blends into this tablet portrait. So yeah, we have 6 that kind of address a lot of these resolutions. If I actually count, we have almost 2, 5, 8, 10, 14, 22 different resolutions. That's a lot of resolutions that your site can work on, which kind of makes your site very responsive. All right, enough talking about this. Let's actually go ahead and see how to actually make our site responsive using this template. So I've just shown you how you can actually copy it from the template. Once you get it, you can actually copy any page from any Framer file onto any other Framer file. So you can just copy and just hit Command V, whichever page you're selecting, it doesn't matter. It will paste as a new page anyway. And right now we have here, which is, let's go ahead and delete these things. We don't need this. And we have this height set to 765. And within this, there are some things that are added already. We can actually remove all of them. You already have anyway a reference from the template. And let's actually bring in our page from the home page here. Let's actually keep this as a reference for now so that we can test the responsiveness and see the difference. And I'm going to go ahead, copy all of these top level layers and stacks that are there within this desktop resolution. Just select all of them using Shift and copy. And then I'm going to go back to this new page. I'm just going to call this as new home. Home. I'm going to come here, select my primary breakpoint, ensure that on the left and right you have these markers, and paste it. So once you paste it, you will see that it may not exactly come up as it is, because on this top level breakpoint level, we have a certain amount of auto layout settings going on that I've used to set it up. All of these breakpoint kind of information and things like that. So you will see there's a lot of padding around, and which is inner spacing, and there's a lot of gap in between all of these things that are set. So you can actually reset all of those things, because on a top level you don't really need all of these things, because you've done all of that work anyway when you are building this entire site. So I have set this, and the height is set to automatically fit. Whenever I have started pasting this, it's set to auto fit. Now I'll just go ahead and set this to auto fit on the other things as well, because these are the things that are kind of overridden, if you ask me. So fit content, and here as well, fit content. And for the tablet as well, fit content, because we have a lot of scroll on the site where we have stacked all of these layers, and if there are any additional padding and things like that, you can reset these overrides, and you can reset anything that is here and here as well. You can set this to fit, reset override, set override. All right, so now you will see that to a large extent the site is automatically feeling responsive, because the breakpoints do that kind of a job where it kind of helps you see each of these sections in their proper resolution. If you see that right now the width of this entire thing is set to 100%, I can actually change this from a relative unit to something like a fill percentage, and all of these things work differently generally. So the moment I set it to fill, you will see that it kind of changes across the higher resolutions as well. It is set to fill here as well. If if I select this section in the largest desktop, it is set to fill as well. So this is kind of working well. Now we just have to adjust a few things in terms of what is the height of this whole thing. And right now the height is kind of set to automatically fit whatever the content is there here. And you can either choose that or you can choose a viewport kind of a resolution. But right now, as I've mentioned in the previous live streams, a viewport is nothing but your browser window, the area within which you are actually viewing the site, which is generally defined by your browser window size. So that height of this browser window within which you are seeing, that is nothing but the viewport height. We don't want to set that because our content is going a little bit beyond this thing. So we are not worried about it on, especially on 1360 desktops and things like that. And you can actually preview all of these things, how they are working, by just hitting the preview button right here on each breakpoint. It's being provided. Or you can actually go to the top toolbar and hit preview. And you will see that all the resolutions that you have kind of appear here, that you can go ahead and start switching and checking if it's working or not. So you'll see that pretty much most of the content is kind of coming into place. And if you want to make some content, for example, these testimonials, right now, because for a larger desktop, I want to ensure that they occupy a bit more space that's been given to them. So what I can do is go into the larger desktop and make this small edit where it kind of occupies, instead of 3 columns, I can actually have 4 columns. There you go. I just duplicated it and added another column, and you will see that that column is not appearing on any other resolution because we are making an override. We are making a change to that particular resolution. This is how Framer works, where in case you want to change anything on a particular resolution, it kind of adds that as an override. And you will see that that 4th column is kind of hidden automatically on any other resolution. That's how it works. So now I can go into the top level stack that holds all of these columns and stretch it a bit more. Right now it is set to a width of 1000 pixel. So I think this is directly coming from the primary breakpoint, if I'm not wrong. Again, let me actually collapse all these layers and unlock these and actually stretch these markers all the way till the end of the page. This way we know at any point in time. I'll just lock them again. You can actually right click and hit lock them, unlock and lock. There we go. So now I know when I'm actually moving between these, I know exactly which is my primary resolution. So now I can actually select this and see, okay, this is set to a width of 1000 pixel, which is a fixed width. But for the large desktop, I can actually go ahead and set this to, let us say, 1600. There we go. There we go. And I can adjust likewise on this as well. If I actually want to show this last 4th column on this as well, I can actually unhide it from here, which is show. And I can set this width to, let us say, 1280. There we go. And so easy to actually set this up and make customizations like this. And you will see that on this particular, the moment I'm moving from tablet landscape, which kind of works well with the 3 column, but the 3 column is kind of squished for the tablet portrait. Instead, what I can do is I will bring in, instead of the 3 column, I can set this to, okay, I will hide this 3rd column. I can always control on a CMS level what it can start at on my right hand side properties panel, where the testimonials should start, the count, how many testimonials should I limit it to. I can say 6, and here I can actually say, let us say 5. There you go, a 2 column layout with all the testimonials that are there. Very seamless. Likewise, you will see that this has been naturally set to stack vertically, and the maximum width is set to 260 automatically. So these are the kind of things that you can do, and you will see if you want to customize a bit more in terms of how big certain image comes up on a larger resolution, because this is exactly what I'm talking about, and I showed some examples minutes ago in terms of how immersive you can make your site, especially on the larger displays, which are quite common these days. Probably 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said this, but today we are living in a world of 4K, HD is gone, and yeah, 4K and above, that's the game. So we can actually go ahead and resize this, but it's best to actually give some standard size right from here. So I'm going to set the width to 800. Sorry, was it 800 already? Okay. 124, maybe 720, a little lesser. 700. Okay, seems to be working well. And probably I'm going to reduce the space, the gap between each of these things to somewhere around 40 maybe. And this is actually occupying a bit more than usual. We can set this to 680 for now. Okay, there we go. Bigger, more immersive on a larger desktop, and as we go down onto the smaller desktops, it gets a little bit more smaller and smaller. And likewise, you can make quite a few changes if you want to in terms of your typography, in terms of exactly how big the sections and the subsections look like, and how much space they occupy, and things like that. You can make quite a bit of changes like this. But here's a very simple example that I wanted to show you. Let's actually publish this and see how this looks like so far. 6 breakpoints to address 22, if I'm not wrong. 22 resolutions. That's a lot. All right, let's actually open this up and see how this works. All right, let me share the screen again. Right, let's go to our site that we have here, and I'll just hit refresh on this. And as you can see, there's nothing much that's happening here, but let me actually put this as a full resolution that's there, and you'll see that the height is something that we can still adjust. We haven't really adjusted the height. Let's actually go back and do that on Framer. Let me quickly adjust that. I'll just set this to viewport. No. Okay. Just a second, folks. I'll show you exactly what I'm trying to do. All right, I'm just hitting publish on this. Let's actually take a look at this, how it works. Okay, maybe I may have to tweak a few more settings, but essentially this should actually work. Am I opening it correctly? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. That was some other link that got open. All right, and we can actually. All right, so I'm just going to change a few things here. All right, so now let me actually refresh this. There we go. Fully immersive site. There's no other section that kind of peeps in and distracts. If you want your readers to have some kind of understanding that this can be scrolled, then probably you can give some scroll-based cues, visual cues. But right now, this kind of works seamlessly. Of course, these are the things that we can adjust. We'll do all of these things, and I'll show you how to take care of these. But as you can see, there are 4 columns of these testimonies. Wonderful already. And you can actually get into the responsive design mode. If you're on Safari, this is much easier to test on, and you can actually go ahead and see how this works. This is actual site. Of course, this is something that you can do on your Framer preview as well, but rendering a live site has some differences sometimes. How it gets previewed in Framer may not be exactly how it gets previewed, how it gets rendered on the actual URL. So sometimes. So it's best to check like this, and you'll see that the image is getting larger on the larger one, smaller and larger. There we go. There's a bit of that shift that's happening. You won't notice all of these shifts because actually you won't be your audience will not actually be looking at it like this, because we are looking at from the hat of a creator. We are actually switching between this very rapidly, but your audience may not be. And the more realistic scenario of how your audience will be previewing your site will be something like, let us say I'm just resizing this to a standard desktop resolution, and I'm exiting the, let us say, the window. This is responsive design. All right, so here's the site, and it's very interesting that your users of or audience of your website will actually view it at a very custom window resolution, depending on how they are actually using their desktop and what kind of activity that they are doing, and are they opening your site in a haphazard way, and an ad hoc way, or is it very intentionally they are watching it on a full screen and things like that. Typically, you will not see people watching your sites on full screen, which means when you are saying that it works very well on a 13-inch laptop, you have to realize that most probably people will open a smaller window on a 13-inch laptop within which they are seeing your site. For is it still working? Is it still not haphazardly switching between your intended resolution, intended design for the 13-inch versus is it slipping into the tablet resolution suddenly, which suddenly looks different and odd for a desktop. So those kind of blips you can avoid with this resolution. That's why a single breakpoint can cater to multiple resolutions the way we've set it up. So yeah, there we go. I hope this has helped you. Let's actually get back onto the thing and see how we can adjust a few things. All right, so there's a just a second. All right, here we are back again. A few things that we can actually adjust is definitely this was something that was going way beyond, and we can actually, the maximum width for this entire stack has been set to 60% of the width. This is something that we can actually control and say, because 60% of a very wide resolution is very much, because that's how percentage works. And let us say instead we will just set this to 45%, and this maximum width is given in absolute units. So instead of 1000 pixel, or probably we can just set this whole thing to an absolute unit of 1000 pixel as well, which kind of, oops, 1000 pixel, which kind of lines up with the bento kind of a grid that we have on the bottom. And we can actually publish this, and we can actually preview it without actually switching to the browser window. Just actually preview it, Command P or Control P to preview, and you will actually see it on a larger desktop. Provided you are on the larger desktop, these breakpoints are otherwise disabled for you if you are actually working from a laptop and you want to actually preview it on a larger desktop. Actually, Framer Preview does not work in that instance. You may have to work with some external plugins or web-based tools that are out there. I can share one of such web-based tool that you can find. And yeah, but basically, let's actually go back and see. There we go. Working fairly well. That's seamless responsiveness for you guys. Those of you who have joined online, let's actually take a look at any questions that you may have so far. Okay. Looks like there are no questions. We are almost at the end of this live stream. If you have any questions, please do type it in the live chat, and I will be able to see here and respond to you. If not, we'll wrap it up in a minute. And one of the other things I wanted to share is, in case you want to understand something more like this in terms of how to build responsive sites, how to actually take care of sites that are larger than a single page sites, multi-page CMS based thing, and how do you actually appropriately use the effects and transitions in such a way that your performance is not compromised with heavy effects that is there, and how do you actually take care of responsiveness. All of these things you can see on the workshop. So let me actually share this page again with you. All right, here we are. Let me actually go into that particular section. Yeah. So here's pretty much all that you will learn. It's kind of divided into 4 sessions over a weekend, totaling about 6 hours. And you will, in a very structured manner, this is not something that is otherwise possible, something that is online and things like that. It's a very different connect that you will have on a workshop. And you will actually go by the kind of practice tasks that are set in the workshop as well, and even beyond the workshop. And all of these sessions will introduce you to the very foundations of how you need to think about website building, and when do you take care of, how do you actually take care of the design of the website and bring it all the way into the development and take care of the integrity of the design, and how do you work with multiple types of sections. And we have something called D3 Web Builder Framework, which takes care of the whole process from the beginning to all the way to actually publishing the website and things like that. And what is a checklist that you need to be aware of before publishing the site, and what are the usability aspects you can take care of, performance tuning aspects, some of the tools, online tools and web tools. I'll show you how to actually use them appropriately at the right time, and how do you build CMS pages. And if you want to go beyond the complexity of what Framer can handle, what are the pathways that you can actually take? All of those things are there. And finally, we have, after these 2 workshops, you have 2 weeks of practice, 2 days of workshop and 2 weeks of practice. Pretty much levels you up a lot more. And this is these 2 weeks you will have level-wise practice tasks, which are set from a very beginner level to taking you all the way to build a whole website, at least a couple of pages in the whole website, depending on how much time you have. And you will have office hours in between and peek into some of the real projects that we have developed, complex projects that go hundreds of pages in CMS, as well as on the interaction level, on the performance level as well. And then we also have something very interesting where if you actually finish all the practice tasks that are given to you in a span of 2 weeks, you can actually get all that money that you have paid specifically for challenge, all that money back. So the challenge money is something that you will be refunded, and you can actually earn it back. So that's a wonderful motivator for you right there. And you can check some of the previous learners and alum experiences that are there. So yeah, this is happening next week if you are wondering exactly when. And of course, you can check out the other details on the website on how it's happening and where we come from. I hope that gives you a good understanding. All right. So with that, we'll just wrap up. Thank you so much for spending your time and joining in and hearing all this about Framer. I hope this gives you a good head start in terms of picking up Framer, especially if you want to build high quality, performant websites. So yeah, custom interactions and a lot more. Thank you so much. Live stream where we have something interesting, which is going from how do you go from a design stage to the development stage from Figma, which is a very popular tool that we use for designing websites, designing digital products, and marketing assets, and a lot more. How do you take something that you've designed in Figma to Framer? If you are a designer, this particular live stream will help you. All right. Thank you so much for joining in. I'll catch you again. See you.